Hello and welcome back. Now that you're here, we can recap and review the final chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. I decided to wait until the official release to make this video so that you would have time to see the ending for yourself, but now it's time to get right into the recap. But stick around for the review at the end. The chapter begins where we last left off. Now Nobara has confirmed that there are no seals or marks allowing for the mysterious technique to function remotely. This means that the target is currently within the range of the cursed user. Megumi estimates that the cursed user's range is most likely 50 to 100 meters, and Yuji and Nobara goof off while Megumi analyzes the situation. He concocts a plan to take the targets to the top of a nearby high-rise to lure out the cursed user, which immediately works with little to no issues. The curse user seems to be a stalker with a hood to protect their identity, and Nobara and Yuji spring into action to catch him, prompting him to activate his technique, disfiguring Yuji and Nobara's faces cartoonishly, which surprises them and briefly stuns them. As the stalker escapes their grasp, mocking them, he is blitzed by Megumi's dog, who easily handles the situation while Megumi tells the other two that they lack focus. As the situation resolves, it turns out that the stalker was upset due to his own inability to show affection, and he was taking out his inward frustrations on the girl who was the target of his technique. Yuji recognizes his remorse and introspection, telling him to cheer up and that he won't face serious punishment. The stalker's response prompts Yuji to remember one of his last conversations with Gojo. During swap training, Gojo explains that he wants Yuji to walk his own path and break away completely from Gojo's journey as a sorcerer, as he knows that the majority of the other students will stick to following in Gojo's footsteps. Because of this, Gojo wants at least Yuji to be able to face the future in a completely different way. Yuji immediately proves Gojo's dream to be worthwhile, as Yuji tells the stalker that he has already identified his issues, so once he atones, he is free to come and work with them. This demonstrates that Yuji's unique strength that Gojo lacked was indeed his aptitude for teamwork and compassion. Gojo is counting on Yuji to be strong in a way that he couldn't, as Yuji can still relate to regular people despite his extreme power, when Gojo ultimately was never able to. The trio quickly discuss Sukuna's final finger, and Yuji claims that it's harmless and that he got rid of it, much to Megumi's disappointment and Nobara's surprise. We then cut to a mysterious pitch-black realm for souls to pass on, where remnants of Mahito's soul were waiting for Sukuna to arrive. As he does, both of them seem to be excited to speak with the other. Mahito questions Sukuna's true motivations and claims that he was lying about merely living in a way that came naturally to him, further claiming that it was actually revenge that drove him, as he truly wanted to punish those who rejected him for the way he was born and scorned him as a child. To which Sukuna claims that both Mahito's claim and his own are both correct, as he sees his desire for revenge as simply an extension of his true nature, claiming that there was no other way for him to live. Upon second thought, Sukuna realizes that he had other paths he could have taken. He then claims that he had at least two paths, while images of Uraume and Yorozu appear behind him. But Sukuna says that in order to pick a different path, he would have to purge himself of the curse deep within him that plagued him for his entire life, and he was afraid that unraveling that curse would destroy him. This could alternatively be interpreted as Sukuna deciding to let out the curse within him and unleash it on the people of the world, as he was afraid that bottling it up could kill him, but that depends on the individual's interpretation. Sukuna embraces Uraume's soul, claiming that if there was another chance for him, he'd like to try and do things differently, which outrages Mahito, who calls him weak and says that his reaction is boring, as he clearly wanted to see Sukuna enraged and bitter at his defeat. But instead, Sukuna claims that it only makes sense that he would give up on his ideology, as he ultimately lost while following it to its natural conclusion. Leaving Mahito, the embodiment of humanity's hatred towards each other, to sulk and brood, while Sukuna, one of the greatest victims of humanity's hatred, moves on with confidence, now unburdened by the curses that made him waste his entire first life. The final 2 pages of Jujutsu Kaisen show the first year, second year, and third year students moving on with their lives as somewhere in the forest a Stevenson screen creaks open to reveal an opened box containing the final finger of Ryomen Sukuna. This chapter review will be unique in the sense that there is no point in bringing up theories for a completed story. However, the chapter still needs to be evaluated on its own merits in my opinion. First, I found the curse-using stalker to be quite anticlimactic, as they ended up posing no real threat or calling back to any previously established lore or characters. Although they did function as a perfect example of how Yuji can be strong in ways that no other current sorcerers are. Throughout the entirety of the series, curse users have always been treated harshly, even when they were obviously mentally ill, like Haruta or Juzo. At the same time, we've seen time and time again that Jujutsu Society was criminally understaffed, even to the point that 3 first-year students were dispatched to handle a special grade cursed womb for their first ever mission together. So Yuji being so caring and understanding can lead to a decline in both of those issues, as he is much better equipped to relate with and diffuse these kind of opponents and reintegrate them into Jujutsu Society, where they can harness their negative energy and Jujutsu abilities for a greater purpose. We've seen this with characters like Hakari, Higuruma, and even Sukuna to some extent now, so it's basically impossible to argue that anyone is better than Yuji when it comes to appealing to those who have lost their way. Yuji's talk with Gojo helped to illustrate that most sorcerers will continue to see Jujutsu as a solo sport, like Gojo did. But if at least one person can adopt Yuji's role, then Gojo's dream will never die. And Gojo knows that he can count on Yuji to bring an entirely new strength to the Jujutsu world. That strength, of course, is unity. This unity was perfectly displayed with Choso, Todo, Higuruma, and Hakari, all coming together due to Yuji's actions. And without them, defeating Sukuna after Gojo failed would have been impossible. And finally, Sukuna's ending is by far my favorite part of this chapter. It didn't trample his character by forcing him to become overly remorseful or feel guilty about what he's done in his life, but he was able to objectively face reality and realize that his path that shunned love and embraced meaninglessness was wrong. As the strongest, he was forced to come to this conclusion when he lost a battle. Just as he said against Yorozu, and Gojo mirrored speaking with Yuta. When the strongest dies, it means that their inherent value and meaning no longer exist, causing them to need other forms of value to leave a lasting legacy, or to matter in any meaningful way. This manifests in different ways for each of them. In Sukuna's case, it showed him that he should have walked a different path, even if it was difficult or frightening, which leads him to walk north and seek reincarnation so that he'll have another chance. And for Gojo, it showed him that his power wouldn't be enough to leave a legacy for his students on its own, and instead his deeds would need to have meaning in order to guide them, as evidenced by him finally killing the higher-ups and setting the students up for prosperity, which he was reluctant to do for decades. Mahito's arrival perfectly highlights the differences between Sukuna's philosophy and a simply sadistic and truly evil character like Mahito, who has no other depth. Where Sukuna sees defeat as a sign that his absolute strength and philosophy wasn't equal to the value of living a fulfilling life like Yuji's, Mahito wallows in pity and frustration as he desperately wants to cling on to any satisfaction he can. In conclusion, Sukuna's stoic end makes up for a lot of the disrespect his portrayal was given in the prior chapters when he was defeated. And Yuji's new role in Jujutsu Society both give depth to this relatively basic happy ending. These concepts compel me to give the chapter a strong 8 out of 10, as the world of Jujutsu Kaisen enters the biggest age of uncertainty yet. We are left to wonder what exactly happens next. Thanks for watching. Jujutsu Kaisen has been the primary topic of my channel for its entire run this past couple months, and as we reach the 6-month anniversary, I am excited to see what kinds of discussions we'll have in the future, and I hope you are too. But either way, I hope you stay safe and take it easy.